Pelicans.
Majority of the cost.
Actually, show me one once where there wasn't much of a yard left.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. to
Well,
get
the
all
water's
that
flowing
off
through
the
there pretty good.
It's, yeah, but it's just, it's high enough.
Is that the one
She's,
on Rainy Lake?
They've moved everything
So you can see where at the culvert there in the road, that water is right up to the top. And it hasn't been cleaned up. I wonder if they clean it up how fast.
She
It
heard the water's up to
To the-
her thighs
to
in
the
the
boat
driveway.
You don't own it, see, there's no
Right,
property.
so they have a
They're
basement.
forfeited to us, and so they really have to, of course,
Really, eh?
initiated.
That's my other uncle, so that's his house.
Is that the one you showed me
No,
last?
that's my other uncle, that's a few doors down, that's his garage.
Yeah, exactly, whatever.
But
makes
yeah.
sense.
If they have to, if it goes over at Happy Jack's, we're gonna have to do the sneaky poo route by using that rail, the CPR road right beside the tracks. That's what Rusty's route went to come and visit us and go home when he was drinking all the time. He called it his sneaky poo route.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I always think about him when I think about that road.
Jump in. Someone sent it to me yesterday. And I flipped it to him, and it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the legalities are.
Well, we're gonna have to fix that because we've got caught on that.
All right, 12 o'clock. Call this public statutory meeting to order as per requirements of the Planning Act. Land acknowledgement, please, Councillor Chase.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As we gather, we recognize that we are on Treaty 3 lands which are steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations and Métis people today. We continue to be thankful for the partnerships with Indigenous people. We give thanks for the many blessings we enjoy in the city of Kenora. We seek wisdom in our mind, clearness in our thinking, truth in our speaking, and always love in our hearts so that we may try always to unite the citizens of Kenora. Let these principles guide us in our decision making.
Councillor Chase. Call for a councillor declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof on today's meeting or from a previous meeting, from a meeting at which a member was not in attendance. And none declared. We'll move on to applications being considered. We have two applications today. Zoning bylaw amendment D14-22-04, civic address 1404 River Drive, legal description 1404 River Drive, registered owner Godbout Property Holdings Inc. And the second one would be the zoning bylaw amendment D14-22-04, civic address 216 Matheson Street South, legal description 216 Matheson Street South, registered owner Kenora District Service Board, agent Kenora Resource Consultants. So we'll move with the first application, applicant's presentation.
That's over to Ms. Patton. It's over to Ms. Patton.
Ms. Patney?
Just call her name.
Ms. Godbout.
Ms. Godbout?
Godbout.
Ms. Patton said she was presenting.
Hello, sorry about that, I didn't realize you were waiting for me. The planning rationale for the rezoning from commercial highway to third density zone R3 for the village located at 1404 River Drive, Kenora, Ontario. The property is located on River Drive on the east side of the city of Kenora and backs onto Lawrence Lake. Development to the immediate south and west from 1404 River Drive to the highway consists of modest residential homes, R2, the Kenora District Jail, Industrial, and Highway Commercial. East and north of 1404 River Drive consists of apartment complexes, R3, Lawrence Creek, and modest residential homes, R2. The legal description, do I have to read that? That is very... No? Okay, good. The property contains 5 wood frame buildings. Building 1 is 1 story with 4 studio and 2 one-bedroom units, as well as 2 service rooms, and it's fully occupied. Building 2 is a 1-bedroom unit, occupied. Building 3 contains 2 upper 1-bedroom units and 2 lower 1-bedroom units, fully occupied. Building 4 is 1-bedroom unit, a studio unit, 3-bedroom house with a garage containing the electrical power supply, and that is fully occupied. Building 5 contains 6 studio units, and they are all vacant at this time, and it is under consideration for demolition. The area east of the building is about 1.5 acres of vacant land. The property has a total of about 2+ acres of land with 109 feet of shoreline on Lawrence Lake, a dock and an 8x10 shed, and 252.185 feet of frontage along River Drive. The zoning is currently highway commercial. The rezoning will allow for units to be used as single residential apartments, directly addressing Kenora's need for affordable housing under the 3.2 general development policies. The need for affordable housing is identified as one of the top 3 priorities in the Lake of the Woods Development Strategic Plan of 2015 to 2020. The apartments will target the modest income population. All apartments have full kitchens, bathrooms, and living quarters. There will be parking for 1 vehicle with possibilities for a second parking stall. All units have been recently remodeled, updated electricity and plumbing. The exteriors of the buildings have been painted and new shingles have been installed. The exterior lighting has been updated. The concrete has been lifted to avoid tripping hazards. In general, the overall appearance is clean and tidy. This is an operating business, so all rainwater issues have been addressed and all the infrastructures are in place and operational. The change of use of this building will help ease the desperate need of affordable housing by 14 apartments and create opportunity for further development on the vacant portion of the land. This plan is in line with the City of Kenora's official plan for the area and with the 2014 provincial policy statement. With rezoning approval, it will meet with permitted uses for R3 residential third density zone. The apartment units targeted towards modest income adults speaks directly to the City of Kenora's need for affordable housing.
Right, now we move to City Planner report, Rationale. Kevin?
Yes, thank you. Through the order, so this application, as mentioned, is an application to change the zoning of the subject property at 1404 River Drive from the current HC Highway Commercial Zone to R3 Residential Third Density Zone. The property owner wishes, as we've heard, to change the use from a motel to rental apartments, which would be considered multiple attached dwellings under the zoning bylaw. Multiple attached dwellings are not permitted in the HC zone, therefore requiring this zoning amendment to the R3 zone, which is the only zone which permits multiple attached dwellings. Upon approval, section 1.10 of the zoning bylaw will apply, being applications for building permits are required per the Ontario Building Code and in addition to other relevant policies of the official plan, zoning bylaw, and site plan control bylaw. In terms of existing conditions, the subject property is known by the Lordside Inn, the name of the former motel, located, as the applicant mentioned, between Lawrence's Lake and River Drive, with 5 separate buildings that the applicant has described in detail. Municipal sewer and water lines service the property and also cross the property to actually provide services to the property to the north on 2nd Avenue East. There's a site visit photo included in my report for the information. Moving on to consistency with legislative policy and city directives. First of all, the provincial policy statement 2020. The policies of the policy statement encourage planning authorities to provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities to meet projected market-based and affordable housing needs of current and future residents of the regional market by permitting and facilitating all types of residential intensification, including redevelopment, in accordance with policy 1.3.3. And that policy that it references, 1.1.3.3, directs planning authorities to identify appropriate locations and promote opportunities for transit-supported development, accommodating a significant supply and range of housing options through intensification and redevelopment where this can be accommodated, taking into account existing building stock or areas. and the availability of suitable existing oral plan infrastructure and public service facilities required to accommodate projected needs. Turning then to the city's official plan, the land use designation of the property is established area. This permits a mix of residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional uses. The designation of lands as established area indicates that there will be little change in this area over the lifetime of the plan. Residential development is encouraged in the established area through plans of subdivision, condominium, and consent as infilling or redevelopment of existing uses on full municipal services. Medium density residential use are supported provided that the development is in keeping with the character of the area. Turning then to the zoning bylaw, the current zoning, as mentioned, is highway commercial, which allows for commercial development along major roads that services the traveling public and often requires a large land area for development. The HC zone, as mentioned, does not permit the proposed use. As mentioned by the applicant, she proposes to amend the zoning to R3 residential third density zone, or R3. The R3 zone allows for the development of a full range of housing forms and other compatible uses serviced by municipal sewer and water, and multiple attached dwellings are permitted use. A minor variance has been approved already by the Planning Advisory Committee to permit two of the existing structures to be closer to lot lines than is normally permitted when they are converted to multiple attached dwellings in the proposed R3 zone. So the zoning setbacks for multiple attached dwellings in the R3 zone were greater than for the previous use in the highway commercial zone. As a result of the variance, the required side yard setbacks in the building in the northwest corner of the property has been reduced from 2.5 meters to 0.95 meters, and the required front yard setback of the central building is reduced from 6 to 5.4 meters. The proposed zoning amendment was circulated for comment on April 21st, and in response we received comments from a few of our commenting agencies and departments. The building department noted that a change in use permit may be required. Fire and emergency services noted that it looks like buildings 1, 3, 4, and 5 will all require inspection and possibly application of Section 9 retrofit of the fire code. And the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry noted that at this time no known habitat or natural heritage features have been identified. This would be specifically in regards to Lawrenson Lake. And such, we are not recommending any additional evaluation. If any wildlife features are identified, please advise the applicant to contact our office. So a public meeting is scheduled for, we're at the public meeting today, which a notice of the application was given in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The Planning Advisory Committee had the opportunity to consider the application at their meeting of May 17th, 2022, and has recommended approval. The minutes and relevant resolution from that meeting were attached to my report. And as of the date of the report and since, no public comments have been received by the Planning Department. So then my evaluation is that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is appropriate to promote redevelopment of the property as multiple attached dwellings. Both the provincial policy statement and the official plan are supportive of the zoning bylaw amendment. The proposed redevelopment will provide dwelling units to meet local housing need on a fully serviced lot within the city's settlement area. The location is approximately 1 block from a transit stop for the city's lakeside route at the corner of River Drive and Highway 17 East, speaking to the importance of transit-oriented development. Site plan control approval will be required due to the change in use of the property to multiple attached dwellings containing more than 4 dwelling units. The applicant will also be required to consult with the city's building department regarding the requirement for a change of use permit, and with the fire and emergency services regarding inspection and possible application of Section 9 retrofit of the fire code. None of these requirements are recommended as preconditions for the zoning bylaw amendment, as the zoning must first be in place in order to consider the change in use and associated approvals. Therefore it is my recommendation that Council approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14-22-04, to change the zone of the subject property from HC Highway Commercial Zone to R3 Residential Third Density Zone. Thank you.
Kevin, public comment. Any person may express his or her views on the amendment. Of the amendment, and the record will be kept of all comments. Are there any public comments? None seen. Questions for council? None? Thank you, Kevin. I guess we'll move on to the next one. This would be zoning bylaw amendment D14-22-05, the 216 Matheson Street South property. And we'll go applicant presentation.
Mr. Shrog is going to be presenting on behalf of that.
Pardon me?
Mr. Shrog
Thank you very much.
Yes. You have the floor.
I'm just going to share my screen here. I'm hoping you can all see that. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Sorry about that.
No, we did see it.
Yep.
Oh, you did?
That was
Yeah,
right.
it's on the PowerPoint screen.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I decided to be in the way of my screen. Right, I'm waiting to see that. So, as mentioned, my name is Trog Patney. I'm a planner working with Kenora Resource Consultants. I'm here to present the zoning bylaw amendment application for 216 Matheson Street South. Give you a little bit of an overview about the project. It's the site, the former North Unsupported Pleasant building, which has been demolished for a little bit of time. So what's left, I guess, is some exposed bedrock, some machine packed fill that was brought in to fill in the area that was that the foundation existed, so it's not just a big vacant hole. The official plan designation for the property is Harbour Town Centre, and it's zoned institution. It's located in a mixed-use area of the city where there's restaurants, shopping, recreational spaces, and even schools nearby. And the lot measures about 30 meters by 45 meters, with the 45 meters being the frontage it has along Matheson Street. Just to provide you with a couple of photos there, you can see that it's quite big. All there is some fill, but nothing else exists on the property. And in mentioning that it's located in a mixed-use area, I just prepared this little drawing or this little map here showing you the surrounding context. Where you see the subject property in the middle there in the blue. The purple circle you see is a 500-meter radius around it, and that includes the No Frills, the Safeway, the Boat Launch, and the Rec Center, the Peace Park, and the Whitecap Pavilion, all within what we would consider a 5 to 7 minute walk. And then focusing at like a 1 kilometer radius, you've got King George Public School, you have 7 generations, you even have a hospital in what is considered usually a 10 to 12 minute walk. So it's really located in that downtown core of the city. So the proposal here is to rezone the subject property from institutional to general commercial. And the purpose of that is to accommodate future redevelopment of the site as being used. Which already exists in a number of places in the Harbour Town Centre area. The proposal looks to maintain the current official plan designation, and just for some context to council here, there is a bidding process underway, but I believe it's closed now for an expression of interest by developers to build that mixed-use development with a provision in that expression of interest stating that some of the residential units that are to be developed are to meet the criteria for affordable housing. So this mixed-use development would be similar to what exists where you have commercial space on the ground floor and then residential units on the upper floors. But at this time, there isn't any development that's being proposed. It's just an expression of interest that's out. And just to show you some of those buildings that I mentioned that already exist in the city of Kenora, you have the Farm Estate building, on Main Street, where you have commercial on the bottom and 2 floors of residential above, and this is on the same city block as 216 Matheson. You have the Royal LePage building on the same street, on Matheson Street, where you have commercial on the bottom and 2 floors of residential above. And then the last one is Ward Anyone, where you have commercial on the bottom and this time only 1 floor of residential above. And the reason I'm with these buildings is they're mixed use, but they also have the same official plan designation of Harbour Town Centre, and they also have the general commercial zone, which is being proposed here for the subject property. So it kind of goes to show that there are other developments in the downtown area that are mixed use and are still in general commercial, for such purposes. To talk a little bit about the policy framework that supports an application of this kind, the provincial policy statement is very much in favor of mixed-use development, a mix of residential types, which in this case is apartments. It's transit supportive, and it promotes economic development within settlement area boundaries within municipalities. The subject property is about 250 meters from a bus stop on Chipman Street and 2nd Street, so it's very much transit supportive. It also promotes active transportation, because you can bike and walk to a number of things that you would need in your day-to-day life. And it also is in an area where people can access the economic, or the commercial side of things that would be on the main floor of the mixed-use building by bus or by walking/biking. In terms of the City of Kenor's official plan, it's very similar in terms of what it promotes and its intent with the provincial policy statement in this matter, where it supports infill and intensification, it supports transit supportive development that's compact, and it supports active transportation. And the other thing that it encourages is mixed-use development in the city's Harbour Town Centre area, which is considered an extremely important component of commercial and recreational land use in the city. And then the zoning bylaw amendment that's being requested. So the institutional zone, which the property is currently zoned as, doesn't accommodate mixed-use development, and it also doesn't accommodate residential development. However, the general commercial zone does. It promotes a wide range of uses and services to meet the needs of residents, businesses, and tourists. And in doing so, it allows for apartment dwellings and residential dwelling units in multi-story buildings, so long as they're not on the ground floor. And in this case, we're proposing that the commercial use will be on the ground floor and residential units above. And the effect of the zoning bylaw amendment would be to allow the future redevelopment of the site to accommodate future development with the provision for affordable housing. So in summary, just to sum it all up, there is a zoning bylaw amendment requested to rezone from institutional to general commercial. The proposal complies with the intent of the provincial policy statement and the City of Kenor's official plan. The zoning is in keeping with the surrounding land uses. It would allow for the redevelopment of what is currently a vacant site within the city's Harbour Town Centre area and accommodate affordable housing and commercial space in a mixed-use building. And there is actually no development proposed as part of this application. It's simply a rezoning of the property to encourage development or encourage redevelopment of it in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, you give the city planner report and rationale.
Yes, certainly. So as mentioned, this application is to change the zoning of 216 Matheson Street South from I, or institutional zone, to GC, or general commercial zone. As we've heard, the applicant is proposing to redevelop the property with a mixed-use development, which would not be permitted under the I institutional zone, but would be permitted under our general commercial zone. As mentioned, also this is the former location of the Northland Supportive Housing Project, and was a building and has been vacant since the time of that demolition, I think about a year and a half ago. It's fully serviced with approximately 30 meters of frontage on Matheson Street South. The applicants have completed and submitted a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, which concluded that there was no concerns due to any sort of contamination of the property, and that was specifically in regards to the field that was brought in after the building was demolished. Turning to the provincial policy statement, the policies of the policy statement encourage planning authorities to promote economic development and competitiveness by providing for an appropriate mix and range of employment, institutional, and broader mixed uses to meet long-term need, and encouraging compact mixed-use development that incorporates compatible employment uses to support livable and resilient communities, and with consideration of housing policy. And in regards to housing policy, Policy 1.4.3 directs planning authorities to provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities to meet projected market-based and affordable housing needs of current and future residents of the regional market area, by directing housing, the development of new housing toward the location where appropriate levels of infrastructure and public service facilities are or will be available to support current projected needs. And Mr. Padney also referenced other sections of the provincial policy statement, which are certainly also applicable to consideration of the zoning amendment. Turning to the official plan, the land use designation is Harbour Town Centre. The Harbour Town Centre designation represents the downtown area of the city and is considered to be an extremely important part of, an important component of the commercial and recreational land use system in the city. It is the intent of the plan that this area contains major concentrations of commerce, finance, tourism, entertainment, recreational and business activities, and provides a dynamic commercial core for the residents and visitors to the city. Multi-unit residential development in conjunction with commercial uses is encouraged in the Harbour Town Centre, where the street level is to be used for commercial purposes. Under the zoning bylaw, as mentioned, the I zone or institutional zone does not permit the development of residential units in a non-institutional nature or commercial uses on the property. Most of the neighboring properties are zoned general commercial already. This actually is currently the one lot on the block that isn't. And some properties on the opposite side of Matheson Street South are zoned LC or local commercial as a transition into that residential neighborhood to the east. This application proposes to amend the zoning to general commercial, and the general commercial zone allows for a wide range of uses and services to meet the use of residents, businesses, and tourists. The GC zone permits commercial uses only on the ground floor of the building, unless upper story commercial uses are an extension of the ground floor use. So you have to have commercial at the ground floor, and you can have it on upper floors as long as you have it on the ground floor first. Dwelling units may be located within the same structure and above one or more permitted uses that occupy the first floor of a non-residential building, so second floor and up are free for commercial development. And as Mr. Padney referenced in his presentation, this is typical of development in our Harbour Town Centre area to have the street level commercial and residential above. Interdepartmental and agency circulation completed in April and early May identified no concerns from any commenting department or agency. Notice of the application was given in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The Planning Advisory Committee had the opportunity to review the application at their meeting of May 17th and has recommended approval. The minutes and the resolution are attached to my report. And as of the date of the report and in the days since, we've received no public comments in regards to the application. So turning to my evaluation, the proposed development, in my opinion, is appropriate to permit redevelopment of the property as a mixed-use development, similar to many other properties in the Harbour Town Centre area. Both the provincial policy statement and the official plan are supportive of mixed-use commercial and multi-unit residential developments. The applicant indicates that the proposed redevelopment will provide affordable housing to meet local housing needs. This commercial and residential development will be located on a fully serviced lot within the downtown area, where, as Mr. Padney mentioned, a broad range of services and local bus routes may be found within a walkable distance. Site plan control approval will be required if the property is redeveloped as proposed. So therefore, it's my recommendation that Council approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14-22-05, to change the zoning of the subject property from I, institutional zone, to GC, general commercial zone. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Kevin. The city public comment. Any person may express his or her views of the amendment, and a record will be kept of all comments. Are there any comments? Could you please identify yourself?
Yes, my name's Leanne Joggett. I'm a commercial property owner, I should say, directly kitty corner to the proposed site. So directly across and to the left, 211, 213 Matheson Street South. My concerns and questions are green initiatives towards parking. So parking is, for people who live and work downtown, a fairly big issue. I myself, as a property owner, I don't even have parking for my for my own property, I'm stuck paying a commercial store around the corner, parking potentially for my whole life, which I find isn't right. I have a big issue with, even though there used to be an alley behind me, which is now a parking lot. But anyway, so what I'm wondering is there green initiatives to parking towards this? Green initiatives that would discourage cars from this development? And what kind of parking initiatives would you put towards this development? Because it's just going to get worse, so, for cars in the downtown core parking.
Probably Mr. Patney could speak on behalf of the applicant anyways.
Did he hear me all right?
I believe I did.
Okay.
So from what I can speak to at this stage, based on there not being any development proposed, I don't know what the parking would look like for something like this. But I do recognize that the property is located in the Harbour Town Centre area. So there is a bus route about 200 meters from property. It also promotes active transportation. You can follow the bike routes that are in the downtown area. You can walk to get your groceries. You can walk to shops, restaurants, and a number of other things. But in terms of what kind of parking requirements the redevelopment of this property would have, I can't speak to that at the moment because I don't know what the redevelopment of this property will look like. But it's possible, just like the Northland Supportive Housing Development had, parking could be accommodated on site when redevelopment is proposed.
And I can add to that. I wanted Mr. Patney to have the opportunity to speak for the applicant first of all. But as I mentioned in my presentation, they will be subject to site plan control. So under the zoning bylaw, there are parking requirements associated with the different uses. So if it goes forward as proposed with a mix of commercial and residential, we'd look at the square meters or square feet of commercial use and how many parking spaces that would require, and the number of dwelling units and how many parking spaces that would require. And certainly the hope is always that those can be met on site. We do have a provision in the zoning bylaw for Harbour Town Centre that parking can be off-site within 90 meters if they have another property. Otherwise, if there's insufficient parking on site, they could apply for a minor variance to reduce the parking. That would, if that happened, and I'm not saying it will, but if that did happen, that would be a public process where there is notification of neighboring property owners. So I think as this moves forward, as we learn more details about whomever is developing the property and from them, probably things will be become a little bit clearer.
Yeah. I realize it is very premature, but as a downtown resident and commercial property owner, it's a big concern downtown. So I just wanted to make that, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Council, any questions, comments? None? Then I guess we move to the close of the public meeting. With a motion to close?
Oh, just adjourned at 12.
Oh, before we adjourn. That's right. Thank you.